Hey Patriots, it's Patrick from Prepared Patriot. In today's society, there's quite a few things that are going on that cause concern for people, whether it be the riots, the pandemic, what you name your disaster, any one of them could be around the corner. I urge, and our company as a whole urges you to start taking steps to prepare yourself. I do believe that time is short on how long we have to really prepare to be ready for anything that may come our way. Emergency preparedness goes a long ways past what I'm going to explain today, but the basis for today's video is going to be about food preparation. I believe that all families should have some food prepped for an emergency. Say it's a hurricane or say it's a big natural disaster. We have weeks. I mean, look at the current pandemic that just came out. You could have all kinds of things coming from many different directions. The truth is it really doesn't matter which one comes. What really matters is are you prepared to handle what may come? So what we suggest is to put back some food storage. Now, some people like to store for short term, a couple weeks. Some people go as long as a year or 2 to 3 years. That is going to be a personal preference that you would have to pick and decide on your own. But I'm going to show you how I prepare and store food for long-term storage. There's many ways to do this, but this is the way that I do it. So you're going to need a couple of things. To begin with, you're going to need something to actually store. Today it's going to be white rice. White rice tends to store better than brown rice because of the oils contained in the brown rice. So you want to stick to things that are actually shelf stable and hold longer. This stored correctly could last as long as up to 30 years. Some other things that you may need are some Mylar bags. And Mylar bags look like this. So if you're looking, they kind of look like the aluminum foil that your chips and stuff come in. This is a 6-gallon bag. For reference, it's pretty large. I'll actually just received some new ones from Amazon, which I will link down below for those that are looking. And I was going to do a little bit of an unboxing for you guys. Let me get my knife here. And we'll open it, and you can actually see exactly how they come when you get them. Now, this is an actual pack that I bought off Amazon because I usually buy from U.S. Emergency Supply or USA Emergency Supply. However, they and many other places are currently out of stock. So the only place I've been able to find them lately has been on Amazon. So this is something from my iPhone. We'll hold that for another time. This is actually what we're looking for here. And as you can see, it comes in a bag. We'll ditch the box so you can see the bag. Bag comes. These are 5-gallon Mylar bags, which are just a little bit smaller than the ones we just got are supposed to be. Yep. And they just come in bundles, so you can get 10, 15, 20. The one I linked below, I think, has 10 in it. And it depends on how large they are. How large they are depends on how much oxygen absorbers you need or how much food you're actually storing. There's actually smaller versions of this. So this is a 6-gallon. They have some that are like 1 to 2 gallons that are a quarter of this size. And it really, you can get even as fancy as the ones that have Ziploc tops on them. All of those are great. It doesn't really matter. Just get one that works for you and know how to do it correctly. And then you're going to need oxygen absorbers. These are kind of the key thing to making all of this work. We want to get the oxygen away from the food so that bugs and the food doesn't go bad. We don't have bugs in there. This is the super important. And this one came with the 2,000 cc oxygen absorbers. Now, if you'll look at the package, you'll see that it's really sucked tight. And here's another couple examples here where the packages are really sucked tight. And that's because they actually suck the air out of the container whenever they go into the container. How many you need to use is based on how many gallons or what size stuff you're going to use. And what I recommend to have is a cheat sheet. This is what I use from USA Emergency Supply. And it has a list of how many cc's of oxygen absorbers I need per container, and how it goes to how, like, so the first one here is a 6-gallon bags, and it tells me that I need 2,000 cc's, one of those. Or I can break it down to, like the ones I have today that I have left over from another time are 500 cc's, and it can take 4 of those. The magic number is 2,000. We want to get at least 2,000 in the bag to make sure that we get we get all the oxygen that we can absorb out of there. So another thing that you're going to want is a mason jar with a good lid. So you want a good clean lid and clean jar that we can put the oxygen absorbers in after we have taken them out of these packs, because as soon as we kind of click, or cut this open, the timer starts. We want to get them in the bag as quickly as possible and get them sealed and get the leftover ones put up like I did last time on these, so that they're not taking up any more oxygen and depleting their utility. So with all of these things, one more thing you'll need is a bucket with some kind of lid. We like, you can get the food grade buckets. You can get ones with gamma lids that you unscrew and all that. I do quite a few, so I kind of like to keep the cost low and do as many as I can. I can always change over later or get a better bucket because I'm using Mylar. These are food safe buckets, but they're not super expensive ones. You can get you can get buckets on Amazon that are super expensive that come with gamma lids, which are really nice, especially because you can dump the food into it and put the lid back on it and it's safe. That's the advantage to that. The disadvantage is they're pretty costly. Where a good food grade bucket can cost you somewhere around $5 to $10, the gamma lids and the higher grade buckets, that are food grade, can be up to $25, $30 per each one. So I just go with what I can find that works. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to attempt to do all this on video and show you exactly how I actually store food. Now, I know from experience that this 5-gallon bucket will hold about 33 to 35 pounds of white rice. So what I do is we're going to open this up, and I just like to stick it down in the bucket and make some room. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually set this down. You see how I have it stuck in there. And we're just going to try to get as nice as we can with that so that it gets as much as we can in the bottom. And then we're just going to pour the food in. So to make this a little less messy, I like to just cut the corners off. You do want a pretty large opening because it can be a little bit of a hassle. So we'll just cut the side here like this. And I know for a fact that this one will hold the whole bag, so I'm just going to go ahead and pour it in. An interesting fact is that Walmart, as much as I hate Walmart, is one of the few places that carries the really large bags of rice. Some of the other places, you might find a bunch of small bags. That's okay. Just, you can just get those and put them in. It just takes more of them is the problem. We like the bulk bags because they take less effort to empty them in there. So once I've poured the first bag in, I'm just going to kind of pull up, kind of shake that down and make as much room as I possibly can. Then we're going to pour it. This is a 20-pound bag here, so I know I'm only going to need a little over half of it to complete what I'm doing here. You can do this as well with beans, any dried food that is shelf stable, such as pasta. Really doesn't matter. Now the oxygen absorbers would change depending on how much density there is in the bucket. So rice and flour and sugar, those kind of things are really dense. So, well, I back up. You wouldn't use it in sugar anyway. Sugar or salt doesn't need it. But you know, your pastas and your big things like pintos, they're very airy in between. They're not as dense as rice is, so they would need more oxygen absorbers in the pack. And it would show you that on your master list, which you can print off from USA Emergency Supply. And my advice is, once you find a good list of how to do these things, print that thing out and laminate it if you can, so it stays around. You have it hanging on your, you know, your wall for food storage, maybe in a pantry or something like that. So I'm going to dump about another half of this in here just to finish off this bag. And that may have been just a little bit more than that. And we'll move this to the side. And again, I'm just shaking that down in. So, as you can see there's just under a full bucket here. Move this where you can see it a little better. There's just under a full bucket. I could maybe sneak in a little bit more, but I think that's good enough. And what I like to do is go ahead and use, I like to kind of fold it down like this and get as much of the air out as I can. And then I'll leave a top like this. And this is kind of the trick. Oh, there's one more tool that you may need. You can do this with like a regular iron, but I find the best way to do it is to use a flat iron. And yes, I'm using my wife's flat iron. It's pink, I don't care. It does the job, and I'm not buying another one just to do it. So what I would do then, now that I have the bag kind of situated and folded in, and just so you can kind of see what I'm doing here, it's just kind of folded to take all the slack out so I can fold that down in there later. And then we're going to take just the lip on top here. And what I want to do, I don't want to fully close the bag. I just want to get all of it but a couple inches where I can slide some O2 absorbers in. So we're just going to hold this bag nice and steady. And I'm going to use the flat iron. We're going to start about right there. And as you heat this, it sticks and seals together. And I just like to do an inch or so that I know I got really good seal. And we want to kind of squeeze as much of those wrinkles out as we can. Make it nice and smooth. Just like that. So now I can kind of show you that the only part left open on the bag is the very end. And that's what I'm going to use to stick the oxygen absorber in. So these are 500 cc. Normally I would use only 4 of these, but I know these have been in my basement now for a little while and they haven't been used, so I'm going to probably use 5. This is completely up to you guys. If you want to just go with 4, you can probably go with 4. To me, I would rather overkill a little bit and do a little bit extra cc's in the bag so I know it's going to seal and do exactly what I want it to do than to skimp out on these and not be able to get it done right the first time. I don't want to have to come back and redo this bag. You can come back and redo the bags, and I'll talk to you about that toward the end. But what I'm going to do now that I know the timer ticks as soon as we pop this seal, so we're going to try to hurry and get as many in there as we can. So I'm pulling these out. And there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in here. I'm going to put those back in and go ahead and put the seal on. So that we can save those for another day. It helps if those are actually if the lids are actually, clean and warm, helps. So now that I've pushed all the extra air out I can, I'm just going to take this and roll it back up, and we're going to seal the bag. So I'm just coming in now and finishing off that edge. Okay. And we'll lay this over here and where it's safe. Now, that's it. We will fold this down and put a lid on the bag, or put a lid on the bucket. And that is long-term stored now rice that's ready to go for 30 years, depending on temperature. So the temperature, let's just show you this real quick. So this is going to be like one of those food shows where I show you one that we just did and then show you what it looks like later. If you're looking at it, you can see it's not really tight and there's some air still in there. That will go away over the next 24 to 48 hours as those oxygen absorbers do what they're supposed to do. Now here is the finished product, one that I did back in April that's been sitting in storage for a while. And if you'll look, you can see that it has really sucked all the air out. You can actually look at that and see where it's pulled so much out that you start to get the rice kind of ingrained on what's going on, through the Mylar bag. That's how bad it's sucked down, which is awesome. That's exactly what we want for long-term food storage. And then the next thing that I do is I always like to label the bag itself. So I'll do a label on the top, what day I did it, how many pounds it is, and exactly what's in it. Because once you get all these Mylar bags kind of filled, you don't know what's inside of them unless you write on it. And then I'll also do the same thing to the bucket on the outside so I can see what it is. If you can see there, we wrote, and then on the top, the lid as well, you can see what's actually in the bucket without having to move it. So I really like 5-gallon buckets because, as you can see, they're kind of easy to move in a hurry. So say there is a disaster coming and you can't stay home, you have to get out of Dodge. It'd be pretty easy for me to go pick up 5 or 10 of those and throw them in the back of the truck and take them with us. And pack up all those things. If you were in my, the Get Home Bag class and the Prepping 101 class, you kind of got a little insight on what I'm talking about there. But this would be kind of a quick food source that we could get out. It's also usually pretty safe. Those are, they're in plastic, so the animals and rodents and stuff can't find them and get in them. They're usually pretty well protected. The Mylar does the job of saving it. I consider the plastic the job of protecting it from other things. So that's just a quick demonstration. I don't know how long that took, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. But we just put back about 35 pounds of rice that's good now for 30 years. Doesn't take too much time. I do suggest that if you're going to do this on your own, get a kind of assembly line going where you get a few of them going at one time, and then you can go through and drop them in and use up all that you're going to use. So like if I was going to open this pack, I know I can do, these are 2,000 each, so I know I could probably do 10 buckets with just what's in this. You don't have to do that. Like I said, you can store it in a mason jar with a good lid. But I like to use them as quickly as I can. I don't like them sitting around very long because, stuff is costly and you spent time and money and effort buying all this stuff and getting all this stuff. I don't want it to go to waste. So that's my little preparedness tip for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, go down and hit the notification button and subscribe to the channel so that you can keep getting videos like this in the future. If you're on social media, check us out on Prepared Patriot NC across the board. All social media is that way. The Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can check us out on all those. Otherwise, though, we appreciate you watching, and I hope you get to prepping, guys, because I think time is limited. But until then, carry smart, carry safe, but mostly be prepared. Thanks.